I want to talk about my early adulthood, the difficulties I had, how I had to, from the ground up, build the reality that I currently live in. Since I wasn't handed any type of blueprint or a model or an instruction manual of how to navigate the world. And I questioned whether that would be the same for everybody. Of course, everybody has to go learn how to live as they grow up, as they enter adulthood and navigate through the world and have experiences and build relationships and get the experience to understand how really the world works. But for me, it seemed to me that even though that's true for everybody, I seem to have some type of handicap. Like, it seemed to me that everybody somehow knew, or at least assumed, that some things are just the way they are, and they did not question the institutions or the rules, social norms, how things are done, cultural, personal, political, anything. Like every little thing, every aspect of life that everybody seemed to take for granted or just in my eyes look like they assumed or they accepted as just the way things are. I had trouble with that. Everything, and I really mean literally every single thing about life, I had to question it. If somebody told me it's just the way things are, this is how it works, I would think, but why? Okay, because this person said so, or this institution has set the rules that people abide by. And then I would simply ask, but why? Why so? And how is it that people just don't question anything? And this sounds exhausting, right? And trust me, it was. It was extremely stressful and exhausting and confusing. And I was very, very lost. And I don't mean that in like a, adolescent, angsty way. Like I was literally lost. Like I didn't know which side was up and down and left and right. I didn't know why people did things at all. I didn't understand. I didn't know why groups behaved in certain ways. I didn't understand why they believed in certain things. I didn't understand why they thought certain things are important while other things were not. I didn't understand how they behaved. I just didn't get it. Like, why are you like this? And they were probably asking the same about me. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I mean, clearly there's a lot going on. There's a lot wrong with me. And I say wrong, I just mean like, I was disoriented. There's nothing inherently wrong with me, but just what I was equipped with at the time in my life, I was absolutely disoriented, lost, no direction, no guidance for me to navigate through life in a way that was going to sustain a happy, stable life. That was absolutely out of the question. And this began probably around when I was like 16, all the way into my 20s. I would even say, it really lasted until I reached 30. Like until the very end of my 20s, I had to build the reality that made sense to me because I had to basically backward engineer every single thing about life that made sense to me, because I just simply wasn't able to take what other people said as truth. I had to investigate every little thing. And that might be my temperament, that might be my personality, right? But that was basically how I reacted to it, on top of the fact that I didn't have good guidance. I didn't have very strong childhood in terms of the home, right? The home front in my childhood was not very strong. And I love my parents, but because of their background, because they were young parents, because they divorced, because I was raised by a single mother, because we immigrated to Canada from Japan, because I didn't have any influence from my father. Uh, and I don't mean this as an attack or to victimize myself. I'm just stating the facts. Like, I did not really learn anything from my father. He was not there. He was absent. Uh, of course, because they were divorced, but also because he just wasn't there physically. Like, and rare times that I did get to hang out with him, it was just too rare for him to really have an influence on me. And even though I did spend 1 year when I was 18, went back to Japan to spend time with him for a year, to live with him and to work with him, uh, to assist him in his photography business, and that in that year, I, of course, did learn some things. It was actually awesome, incredible experience going to Japan and getting plugged into the work culture of Japan, in his photography business, and getting to meet all his colleagues and his clients and the great people that he was surrounded by, and the relationships that they had. That was incredible. And I learned a lot from that experience. But that was it. That was it. That was really this one small time where I got this sort of a crash course in adult life, right? Because I wanted to. I had such little influence, and I felt so scared for the future that as soon as I graduated from high school, I immediately fucked off to Japan to live with my father, because I felt like I needed to get some type of education on how the world worked. And I always felt that in Japan, because of the culture, because of the way they are very conscious about harmony, they're a much more collectivist society. And a part of me gravitated towards that. Like, a big part of me gravitates towards that. I think there's beauty in it. I think there's this consideration for other people and empathy, and care that exists in Japan, that exists very rarely in other places, in my experience, especially Canada. Uh, so I did that, but really, in my collective experience as a child growing up in Canada as an immigrant, with very little parental guidance, very little guidance in general, I was basically this laissez-faire kid. Just let this kid just run around, and just literally nobody telling me how things worked. Uh, and I just had no blueprint. I had no example to go by, no education, and also the fact that I moved from Japan to Canada as an immigrant and as a kid being relocated from one culture to the other, which is extremely different, and becoming an outsider, trying to assimilate, learning a new language. All of these things combined contributed to me in my early adulthood just having very little understanding of how anything worked, and combine that with my probably my I would I would assume my tendency, my personality to question. I want to understand things from my first account. I need to get to the first principle of things. I can't just have somebody tell me it is so because I was told it was so. Like, that's not good enough for me. I have to understand why. Why is something like this? What reason is behind how this works, right? I need to understand. That is just my nature. I think that is just inherent in me. So this is the way that I was back in my early adulthood. And basically the result of that is that I had to build my reality, the sense of my reality, literally from the ground up, from the first principle of everything, because I literally just question everything. And I'm talking about this because I just found my journal, this old beat up journal. It's all ripped apart from 2010. So I was 23, 24, something like that. So I had just moved to Montreal, finished my 3-year program at Dawson College in photography, and I was now out in the world. I was now supposed to go out in the world and become a photographer and make money and become an adult, a professional photographer adult, as a 23-year-old young man. And I'll tell you, I was definitely not fulfilling that role. I was just still lost, still confused, still had no idea what I was supposed to do, how to navigate through the world, how to get the jobs, how to make money, how to do anything. Okay. It was still a massive struggle at that time. And as I was reading it, I just thought, okay, I was literally questioning everything, every little thing. Like I just read a passage about, like, what is the point of photography even, you know? And it can sound like a just angsty rant from a teenager or like a young adult, but I would read it and it's like there is a logic to my confusion, right? And essentially I was confused about how sales work, how marketing works, how does the economy work in this marketplace for people who need photography? Like, what are the reasons they need it for? Where do they go? Like, where do they get published? How do they get used? Right? What are the laws surrounding all that? Like, unfortunately, in school, they didn't teach us very much about that. There were courses on it. Yes, I remember. There were business class, there were marketing classes, but to a young dude's mind at 20, 21, 22, 23, who came up from this background, it just didn't register to me. Like, okay, this guy's telling me this is the way it works, but it doesn't click. It's just not clicking in my head, right? It's just not good enough for me. And what would have been great is if I had some previous exposure to business. Perhaps someone in the family was running a business, and or somebody in the family talked about business or about money. None of that was existing in my family, in my childhood. It was like we just didn't know how the world worked. And, that's just the way it was. My mother, a single mother, she had jobs that whatever she could get. She wasn't like an entrepreneur. She wasn't like, she didn't come from a rich family. We were broke. I love my mother and she worked so hard to raise us. But the fact is, she didn't have that background. Okay. So like we were just this very broke immigrant family, where my mom was doing whatever job she could find. So just imagine, I'm coming from this reality, and I'm in this in my early 20s trying to make my way. It seems kind of crazy. Like, why is he even asking these questions about what is the role of photography in society? Because I had to build a reality in which I understood what is the value of photography. Like, I had to really break everything down. This sounds insane, and it kind of is, because I don't think most people will go through this process. I did ask AI, I asked chat, like, did I have autism? This is a situation, but I'm not able to discern whether, like, I'm autistic. Maybe, but these are the circumstances and background situations that led up to this scenario. And in my mind, it makes logical sense. Even now, as I sit here, because I have sort of made sense of it all by now, but now reflecting on my writings from 17 years ago, I can see the brain working, right? I'm looking back at myself as a young man, and although the writing is very confused and I'm seeking answers, and the questions are like so absurd, like, what is the role of photography? Like, why is that? Why does that matter? Like, why are you even asking? Right? Like, that's what a normal person would say, probably. Like, you study photography, you want to make money, and then now you're outside of school thinking, what is the role of photography? What place does art have in society? Like, these are the thoughts I'm having. And I'm watching movies and I'm just breaking them down and just going really deep. This is literally how I looked at everything. And it seems unnecessary, but to me it was necessary. And looking at it, I see that there is actual rationale behind my words. So it wasn't completely crazy. It wasn't just angst or, venting frustration. I was actually trying to figure out what the fuck was going on here. Like, trying to understand how the pieces of society fit together so that it functioned the way it did. Because I didn't understand it. I just simply didn't understand. And I'm sharing this story because you might be an immigrant who grew up in a different country. Maybe you grew up with a single mother or father who who were not present at home. There were no parents. I was just there in the house, and basically there was nobody there, right? I had my brother, but I'm the oldest. Sibling. Well, it's two brothers, me and my brother, and I'm the older one. And there simply was no guidance. There just simply was no information or any guidance, mentor, that type of figure, right? And if you relate to that, and on top of it, being poor and being an immigrant, like, all the pieces are there where the reality as you know it, that maybe a lot of people will just take for granted if you are simply born in a country, raised there, and you have your parents there, you have generations of family there, and you have the culture there that you never have to uproot and forget and reinstall a new one. I mean, that is a different reality, right? And, there's a term called third culture kid, right? Like, somebody exactly in a position like me, or 1.5 generation immigrant, right? You're moved from your original culture to a new one, at an old enough age so that you remember your origin, where you come from, where you were born, and the culture and the customs and the social norms and all of these things. and you get replaced into a new environment where you have to completely rewrite all of that. And basically what happens is you're an outsider, right? I'm an outsider. I'm looking in. I'm an observer. I am feeling like an alien. I am not included in things. I don't understand social norms. I don't understand social cues that are normal to that environment. And getting bullied, not being treated the same, being put in different class because you just don't understand what the fuck is going on. Like all of these things compound to my experience. And I'm talking about it because you might have a similar experience, right? Growing up as an immigrant or coming up in a single parent family, or just for a circumstantial whatever reason, your parents just could not be there to instill some of these the knowledge, the pragmatic knowledge that's going to help you navigate through life, because they were not able to instill in you or provide you with a model of a society, the blueprint of society and life that you can work with, right? And so that is going to automatically make you into a very intellectual, overthinking person, because you literally have to analyze everything and break everything down yourself. I had to backward engineer what I'm looking at to understand why things are the way they are. And I don't have a satisfactory answer to that question until I really get to the very radical of it. Like I have to go very, very, very deep. So that explains my nature at this age, or in fact, all of my life, simply because of the environment that I came up in, or I'm just autistic. Who knows, right? I should probably get like a test, But some of these things overlap. Like the manifestation expression of it is very similar, right? But the way that I'm sort of framing it right now is more of a nurture type of deal. Like I had to learn this way of existing because it was a way of survival. It was a way of navigating through the world. I had to build a reality from scratch, but doing it in a way that was completely by myself. I had to do it literally all on my own. Now, I'm going to tell you the benefits of it. The benefits of having had to do that is that I have a very independent, self-sufficient model of reality, right? Which actually works well with my temperament, my personality. Although you can argue my personality also came from because of this background. I care about liberty. I care about freedom of expression. I care about being able to think for myself and for anybody to be able to think for themselves. I have distrust of any type of authority that is going to tell me how to do something. Not because I'm scared of them or I have hate for them. It's simply the fact that I need to know something for myself. Like I only trust my first account experience, right? I can trust somebody who has credibility in some way, but just going to school, for example, is not good enough for me, because even that to me is questionable. Not because I don't hate school, but because I just see in my own logic that even in an institution like school or universities, like they are wrong. They can be wrong. And it's not because I hate school. It's because it's just the nature of things. Because I'm able to think for myself, I see a lot of flaws in the way that things are done. And some things are just accepted as it's okay. This is just the way it is. But to me, it's not good enough. It's like, well, there are other ways. I can see different ways that it could be done, but simply you know, most people just don't question it, you know. So that is the benefit in my eyes. I'm just able to think for myself. I do have my own sense of reality that is not so much inherited, but it was literally built from the ground up. So I feel like it's probably a little stronger, although it can be frustrating. It can be difficult certain times, you know, because I might not fit into the accepted norm or accepted discourse of things because I simply just think for myself. Like I really don't buy into a lot of, you know, like the tribal thinking. I have like I'm like allergic to it because I can see where people just fall into the trap of agreeing with some type of thought simply because that's what they know, you know, and they can rationalize it and they can feel like it's right, but it's actually that they are subscribing to it because they were simply brought up in it, right? They're just in the cave looking at their own shadows, essentially, right? And like, they never got out of the cave. You know, it's like they didn't arrive to this thought. They were given it, but they don't know the difference, right? And I see this very clearly in most things. So I think this is a benefit, although it can be difficult, simply for the fact that, you know, you can't really subscribe to most things just because like you don't agree with everything. Although, but you're just open-minded, right? I'm just open-minded. Like I don't have to wholesale believe in one thing, right? Like I'm able to be open-minded and then take things from many, many, many different influences and make my own mind about things. So I believe that's a benefit. That's a strength. If you relate to where I'm coming from, maybe you relate to that thought, maybe you relate to that sentiment, you know, and you're probably the kind of person that I would get along with, you know. But definitely there is a massive, massive growing pain associated to it, which was that I had to build up this reality from scratch. Yeah. You know, when I look back at it, you know, I often feel like, oh, imagine just having a mentor would have done for me. Just having a good mentor to guide me. That would have sped up so much of this and would have made this so much less painful and frustrating and avoid so many mistakes and avoid so much drama and pain over so many years. Like time is the most valuable thing in all this. Like I had to spend years figuring this out, right? So having a mentor would have absolutely transformed my life. You know, I would confidently say that I would be, you know, further, quote unquote, further in life, right? I don't want to put a time on my schedule or my development. You know, I think it takes whatever time it is required, you know, karmically or spiritually or destiny or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's going to take however much time you need to figure it out, to learn the lessons you need to become whoever you need to become. But having the right mentor would have definitely sped that process up. But it's just, in retrospect, it's easy to say, but how can you pick the right mentor when you're, you know, when I was like the kind of young man that I was who questioned everything and probably would have not known how to pick a mentor, first of all, because I didn't know how to navigate. I didn't know how to pick one. And it just seemed like I just didn't see why anyone did anything at all. Why does he do it like this? So everything had to be sort of learned from observation and questioning everything. And in a way, I guess that in itself is a mentorship. I was very observative. I was always looking at different people and influences to just break down why they're doing something. And that in itself, in a way, is a mentorship. A good mentor, basically, you just watch them and you just copy them, essentially. Because if you want to do what they are doing, if you want to have the results that they have, you simply copy what they do. And so, of course, yes, I would mimic things. I would take things from different people, but at the same time, I would question them. So everything I had to just experiment with everything, right? And try different things. So, the whole process is very long, very painful. And it took a long, long time. Yeah. And just, you have to be okay with uncertainty. You have to be okay with not knowing what's going to happen, taking risks, but trusting that everything will work out. Like that's all I had to go on for like a decade in my early adult life. Like literally, I'm reading over and over in my journal, like it's repeated, like that's all I had to go on, is that I believe anything is possible. And if I just keep at it, it's all going to work out. Like things are it's going to work out. Like I had this blind faith that I'm going to figure this motherfucking shit out. And that could be a temperament thing, personality thing. I just couldn't stand the thought of like, well, it's hard, but what am I going to do? I'm going to fucking give up. I'm going to just give up and quit. Like, I don't like to lose. I don't want, just because things are hard, doesn't make it okay. I'm not okay with just quitting or losing or not having what I want. Like, I still want to win. So, that was in me. Like the fire was in me. I was okay with the adventure. I was okay with going out there and failing and experimenting and trying new things and taking risks and feeling awkward and just, feeling like a fucking loser at times, just not knowing what the fuck is going on. But I just never gave up. So, that's really all I had to go on. And, some of you might feel that way, when you're a young man or young woman. That's all you got. It's just like, well, one day, hopefully it's going to work out. I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe this is going to be a big waste of time, but I don't know any better. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it 100%. And then I'll learn whatever I have to learn. And then eventually that'll lead to something else. So you have to do whatever it is you're doing with 100%. You have to you have to go all in. You have to squeeze the fucking juice out of it. You gotta take all of what you can from it. And then, you'll be all right. You'll be kind of all right. So I didn't tell this story just to kind of, just to be like, oh, look at my story, look at my life. No. I'm sharing it because, well, it is my personal story that I know about. I can tell you what I know. I lived it, so I know it. And I tell it because I struggled massively in the past. And for sure, there are people just like me who are struggling for similar reasons, or maybe not exactly the same, but can relate. There's uncertainty in life. You feel like you're going nowhere. You feel like you're lost. You feel like there's nobody looking out for you. Like literally nobody. Like nobody is there to fucking tell you anything, tell you if you're right or wrong, tell you if you're good, you're doing good, you're going to be okay, or you're going in the right direction, or even just hang out to just make you, help you distract yourself a little bit, like just have a little fun. Like I had that period of my life where I had none of those things. Like I mean when I say it, that's all I had to go on, which was that I just felt like eventually it'll work out. Like that's literally all I had to go on. It was just hope and this blind faith that I'm in good hands. Like I'll figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. There's always a way. I'll figure it out. And I just kept thinking. I just kept writing. I just kept thinking and writing, reading books, read books. That's what I did too. Reading a lot of books, watching movies, just exposing myself to anything, right? To try to understand how the fucking world works and building my model of reality from it. And always question yourself, like, how can I poke more holes into my logic, into my reality? What false assumptions do I have? What limiting beliefs do I have? What are the things that's limiting from me from achieving this, that, and the other thing? You can always get better, right? And I am still on that journey. But today I'm just reflecting. I am paying homage to the past, where I struggled, but I never gave up. And I am grateful to my young self for fucking persevering and dreaming and staying curious and believing in myself, really. Even though it was fucking hard. It was hard. And I am a stronger person for it. And if you're out there going through similar shit, you are motherfucking beast. You are strong. You're amazing. You are fucking amazing. Keep going. Never give up. You will win. Do not ever, ever give up. Okay? And that's the message for today. Keep writing, keep reading, keep doing shit. Don't stop. Okay? Be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You will figure it out. You will always find a way as long as you keep going. All right? That's it. I love you. I'll see you in the next one.